Do I feel that I'm ahead of our time or ahead of this time? It's a good question. I'll say this. I've always loved and appreciated an artist that has been ahead of their time, whether it be Prince, whether it be Gustav Klimt, who was one of my favorite painters. I've always looked up, or Bjork. I've always felt like that was always I've always been appreciative of art and people who I feel people just are queen. I just see, Freddie Mercury ahead of his time. Then I got an opportunity to be an artist, and I felt like everything I got into was a bit ahead of its time. I think Danity Kane was a bit ahead of its time because we were a girl group that was different in cultures, different nationalities, yet we were signed to a hip-hop label doing pop music. We never gave ourselves rules on what we were delivering. We were giving records like Damage, but then we were giving records that had hip-hop on it. So I think we were fine with that. I thought that was cool. We could put out a dance record and then put out a record that Puff produced. And Dirty Money, Last Train to Paris, to me, is one of the most innovative records, and it was ahead of its time as well. So I don't know. I do know that I've always appreciated the artist that gets labeled that, and I guess people tend to label that on me. I feel like, I'm just making music that feels good to me, but I do feel like sometimes it misses people's minds at first. So I think it misses their initial understanding, you know what I mean? And maybe that's called ahead of its time. I don't know. I get that title a lot, though. I don't do an album without a visual. I see everything before I even put the record down. That's how the trilogy was. That's how New Breed was. Like I had a plan, and the only way that I could release it was if I had the permission of the native. I knew all of it before I even went in the booth. I saw what it needed to be. I know what the cover was going to be. I knew visually how I wanted it to how to transpose everything. And that's how I see it to the stage. Everything from the stage design to the videos. Like when I did the VR, I knew I wanted to do VR. And everybody told me I was fucking crazy because VR 4 years ago was not what. And they were looking at me like, who's paying for that? And I was like, no, I'm going to figure this shit out. We did a full VR visual. We did a companion piece on top of a VR visual with no fucking money 4 years ago. With no label, no anyone. We were doing VR then. We did an interactive visual where you could manipulate the head and the body of the entire thing 3-4 years ago. We did motion cap, before IBM released their full commercial with the mocap design with Connect. We did that. Like, I think we released it 6 months before IBM even released the mocap commercial, which was the dotted lines from the thing. We did that with James Dean. That was always, I just love tech visually. I mean, my last Redemption album was, the album was and had a VR piece. Like, you could get it on a USB, and the entire album had a visual that was VR. Redemption came out almost 3 years, 2.5 years ago. So we were already pushing a lot of things like way before, and that was all. I saw it that way. I wanted the trilogy to be a tech-infused project, and I wanted to show people the possibilities of what tech can be in the next 5 to 6 years. It's so funny. The dopest videos I've done has the least counts of views because it hasn't caught up yet to the reality that people want to get the glasses. They want to experience it. Even with YouTube 360, I was the first person to do their live performance with YouTube, and we had so many fucking hurdles because that was YouTube and we were still trying to figure out. I wanted to do all this shit, and they were looking at me like, Dawn, there's no fucking way we're going to put everybody in the world live on live television. What we managed to do with the choreography and have people see it, it was all trial and error, and that was 3-4 years ago. So I saw it then, and I knew it was a risk. But I wanted to be an artist that could prove that even though you didn't have a major label, you could still have the capacity to deal with VR and interactive and augmented reality if you use a little bit of innovation. And the nerd in me, one of my biggest accomplishments was being able to have Wired Magazine premiere that, because Wired Magazine is one of my favorite magazines. So yeah, I saw the vision, and I saw the same with New Breed. I wanted New Breed to be more hands-on, and wanted it to be less pushing Future in front and pushing Future more sonically in the records, but keeping everything grounded. New Orleans first comes from the past. It's built off of a past. But I didn't want to keep it there, right? I didn't just want to do funk. I wanted to do funk but funk in 2040. You know what I mean? Like, so push it. I don't just want to do a bounce record. So New Breed, the New Breed record was bounce infused in 2030. So what would bounce music sound like if we were ahead a little bit? And that was, so not directly taking things and just putting it on paper, right? Taking it, transposing it, bending it, shaping it, right? Trying to see if it can be molded into something else, and then throw it out there and see if it sticks. It may be a little bit too much for people, or it may be just what we need.